go through the presentations. So as there's not many of us, if we just like a quick kind of intro, just so we kind of get to know who's here, that'd be helpful, and then I'll just crack on with everything. So yeah, I'm Martin Grant. I'm the overall kind of program lead for delivering this energy advice service program on behalf of in combination with Birmingham City Council, who'll be talking later on about grants, the West Midlands Combined Authority, and ultimately the organisation that's funding all this is the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. So that's some background to me. Ashmita, do you want to quickly introduce yourself and then pass the baton, as they say?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm from Aston University, and I lead the marketing for the Business Energy Advice Service. And yeah, that's short and brief, I guess. So I'll pass it on to Stuart.
Hi, I'm Stuart. I'm the MD of Regent Engineering, which is a manufacturing business based in the West Midlands. I'll hand it over to Gary.
Thank you, Stuart.
Morning, everyone. My name's Gary Hawkins. I'm a general manager at a small manufacturing business near Walsall, West Midlands.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gary. So we could, Jonathan, do you want to?
Hi there, good morning everybody. My name's Jonathan Howell. I'm an energy advisor working actually in the BEAS programme, and I deliver energy audits in Coventry and Warwickshire area. So good morning and nice to meet you all.
Morning. Kevin?
Good morning everyone. My name's Kevin Harrison. I'm a QHSE director for Lennart Limited, which is a manufacturing company in Highley in Shropshire. We do precision press work and surface engineering and finishing.
Great, thanks very much. And last but not least, Ash.
Oh, thanks, Martin. My name is Ash Mahmood. I'm from Birmingham City Council, and I'll be delivering brief about the programme a little bit later. So hopefully we'll speak a bit more in detail about the programme during my presentation.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to sort of just crack on now, sort of share my screen. If you can bear with me, because I managed to not quite get this right yesterday, and I'm hoping that, where are we? Where's the sound bit? Share sound should now hopefully work. Okay, so the as I say, this it's a program sort of run by the Business Energy Advice Service, and we'll kind of work through this as we go along, give you some insights to what's going on. So, but we'll start with a case study.
Larksell Engineering is a precision engineering company. We carry out manufacture of precision components, fixtures, tooling, gauges and other precision items for the aerospace, oil and gas, nuclear and defence industries. The impact of the energy crisis has been significant to our business. We've found that the cost of energy has doubled over a short period of time. We discovered about the Net Zero programme via Birmingham City Council and then Aston University. The programme started with an energy efficiency audit by Aston University. The next steps were to look at the recommendations given to us and then pick accordingly what we thought would be most suitable. We determined that solar panels were the best option for us. The solar panel installation was completed in July 2024, and we have seen nearly 50% reduction in energy costs. Given the fact that we are now saving in terms of our energy consumption, we are able to bring new machines on stream and we can invest that into other means. Before we started the decarbonisation net zero programme, we didn't really have an understanding of the requirements or how we would go about kickstarting our journey. But we've been given tangible knowledge, advice and implementation of initiatives to kickstart that journey. And we think it's the start of a very positive progress going forward.
Oops. Okay, so let's just give you kind of a feel of what's potentially kind of possible. In the particular kind of case study we were looking at, there was as an example of the solar side of stuff, but as was mentioned, there's you will receive kind of a complete sort of comprehensive overview of operations within your business, and I kind of generally sort of view it within three kind of sections. So one is the kind of building itself and what we can do to assist there. Then there is things that kind of relate to processes and what's actually going on beside the building, and then there's sort of sets of recommendations which we could kind of call related to machinery and equipment. So what you've got on screen there is just a sample section of kind of things that can potentially be looked at within an audit. So I'll talk later about the kind of process moving through in terms of getting everything booked and what's involved within the actual program itself. This is just to kind of give you a feel of the sorts of information that you can get in order to kind of help you to make some, as you know, as the guy was saying, investment decisions effectively in terms of how you can actually sort of save money within the company. Ash will talk a bit more about the grants that's involved in sort of helping to actually kind of support that. But as you can see, we're talking about a wide variety of different sort of potential kind of interventions. We've got sensors, EV charging points, extractor fans, swapping to electric kind of forklifts, pipe insulations, solar PV. There's a number of different areas that can be brought through. The key bit from the point of view of the businesses in terms of the actual assessment itself is that you'll end up with a detailed report. This is just a tiny section of that, and that's then kind of broken down with estimates in terms of the actual savings from a financial point of view, from an energy point of view, and from a carbon point of view. And each individual recommendation is then detailed in terms of payback period. So that helps from the point of view of again, as was said earlier on, you can get any number of recommendations. It could be a couple, could be 15, 20, just depends on how detailed things are within a particular program. And the decision then as to which recommendations are going to go ahead is with the company. There's no need to actually kind of implement everything that's recommended, and a lot of it will need to basically kind of fit in within your own organization's production requirements, your ongoing kind of energy strategy, cash flow, all of that kind of stuff as to what's actually potentially kind of possible and what would make most sense at that particular time. So it's a matter of making an internal, as I say, it's an investment decision at the end of the day as to what's going to help to move the business forward, and what's likely to have the quick wins in terms of significant savings, and what's going to be easiest to actually implement, and what might be more sort of medium-term kind of savings in terms of not just the volume of energy saved, but also then the actual kind of ongoing impact within the business and how that can help it. So that's just to kind of give you an overview of the detail of what you would actually kind of receive once the actual energy assessment itself is booked. Depending on the actual circumstance, as you can kind of see here are some broad sort of overviews, then some of the savings can be quite substantial. We've got a number of clients that, depending on what they've actually installed, again, as mentioned, could be saving 40-50% on their energy bills, which is clearly very significant indeed. The grant support within the programme is very generous. And again, the key bit for me within this is the energy saving then, as was mentioned in the case study, enables businesses to then make further kind of investment in terms of creating new products, new services, employing more staff, increased marketing, whatever. If you're looking to kind of generate tens of thousands of pounds within your business via banks, external investors, whatever it may be, that can be long and kind of complicated. Actually having control of your energy would mean that you can potentially kind of be generating those kind of scale of savings internally, which is much easier money to raise. You're in control of it, and then that gives you a lot more scope then in terms of your business resilience, but also how the business can grow moving forward. This is just, you guys will know kind of better than we do. The impact within manufacturing on sort of energy is quite significant. Basically, it's sort of factories for a variety of different kind of reasons basically kind of consume more energy than any other kind of types of buildings. There's different energy profiles, so like warehouses, because they've got large open spaces, will use energy in a different way. Interesting in areas, things like hospitality, pubs, etc., restaurants are actually very energy intense per kind of square meter of what it is they do. But in terms of outright energy consumption and the impact of rising energy costs, etc., is manufacturing that is feeling this most kind of keenly. So, which obviously means it's an area where we've got most likelihood of having some significant impact in terms of helping manufacturing businesses within the West Midlands region. So that's a kind of background in terms of the impact this can kind of have within a company, what's actually going on within it, why is it happening? Well, the reason is that in order to help meet the UK's net zero kind of targets, a couple of years ago, the government was looking at sort of research to inform policy on how it is that small businesses actually kind of use their energy. And surprisingly, actually kind of found that there really wasn't that much information out there. There'd been a number of support programs, but no one had actually taken the trouble to actually record any data and understand what the impact of those were. So what the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero has done is basically kind of commissioned a pilot program, which will finish at the end of March 2026, and the reason for doing that is to try and gather data and understand what it is that or how small businesses use their energy. The West Midlands was selected because it's got a very good overall representation of manufacturing, retail services, etc., within the one area. So that's what's driving all of this. And is the reason why your ultimately going to get a free energy assessment, and then once the energy assessment is completed, which we'll talk a bit more about later, you can then apply for a grant of up to £100,000 to support that. Okay. As I said, like the West Midlands itself is particularly kind of hard hit because we have got a significant number of manufacturing businesses within the area, and we're at the centre of a number of supply chain activity. The manufacturing buildings as a stock are generally kind of getting older, they're less efficient, so we can help in another number of areas. As I said, this is around sort of looking at whether or not there's something can be done with the building, the internals, or the actual kind of processes within it. The way I kind of like to look at this is the fact that you could fit solar panels to an an old leaking building, but and that would have some impact. It would help, but ultimately it would be much more effective to actually look at what's happening with that and the process as well, to make all of that much more efficient, so that any additional changes then in terms of where the energy is coming from will basically have a much bigger impact, because the building itself is just basically operating a lot more and its processes a lot more effectively. So you get a multiplier effect within all of this. As you can see, and from the previous example, each one of the recommendations is individually costed up, and there's a return on investment. But what that doesn't tell you is the overall bang for your buck. Basically, the sum of the sum of the parts is kind of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Sorry, as a way of going through all of this, if there's less energy needed to undertake what's going on, then any additional impact in terms of things like solar panels will just be that much greater, and will basically mean the thing will be paid back kind of quicker, but also lead you into additional areas where you could be generating surpluses that can be kind of costed and modelled throughout the year. So how do you get involved? Well, you need to be an SME, which is a sort of standard European definition, but it's sort of 42 million worth of turnover under a balance sheet, total of under 36 million. You need to be located within the West Midlands. So the programme runs, Aston's kind of leading in the standard side of stuff with partners, so Jonathan and another company, Pro Enviro, that support us within the West Midlands Combined Authority. But the programme itself actually kind of runs out across the whole of the West Midlands. So if you're based in any of these areas and you're an SME, then you're highly likely to be eligible. The only other real kind of criteria is that you need to be consuming at least sort of 25,000 kilowatt hours of energy a year. But if you're involved in manufacturing and engineering, there's a very high likelihood that you'll kind of clear that quite comfortably. The only other thing to add within that eligibility is that there's basically sort of two types of energy assessment. The basic process is exactly the same, but if you're what would be known as a standard intensity business, that would be you're consuming less than 750,000 kilowatt hours of energy. If you're consuming more than 750,000, then you'll be known as sort of energy intensive, and the audit or the assessment process is by and large the same at a basic level, but we can then go in and add micrometering and things like that within the actual factory, so we can understand what's happening with different pieces of machinery. And also there will be additional support then from the point of view of helping with ongoing energy management. So we'll kind of create roadmaps, things like that, as part of the report to basically help you to understand on an ongoing basis, considering the large amounts of energy that are consumed, how that can be managed as a tactical and strategic kind of process, rather than simply doing a one-off intervention where we change light bulbs and heating and some bits and pieces like that, which will be significant. But ultimately, with the larger energy consumers, we're hoping to kind of help the businesses become better energy managers, as well as actually the initial intervention to kind of help support reduce their energy consumption. The overall journey process is pretty straightforward, realistically. So we will send out to you a link. I think Ashby can probably put that in the chat as well, for to register. All businesses basically register on the Business Growth West Midlands website. Fill in your details there. It takes about 5 minutes, and we will then get in contact with you, and just to basically, as I say, kind of confirm eligibility, ask a few kind of additional questions. We'll need some straightforward information, as in 12 months worth of energy bills to baseline your energy consumption, confirm that you're consuming more than the 25,000 kilowatt hours, and then we sort of start the process from there. Arrange time for the actual visit, come out and do the energy assessment on site. So other things to kind of note within this is that if you've got more than one site, i.e. completely kind of separate buildings, then we can come out and do an assessment on each building. So if we had a company that had their kind of headquarters in one area where most of the admin, sales, that kind of stuff goes on, they may have another building separately, which is on another site, which is where their manufacturing takes place. And there may be a third building on a separate site where, say, distribution and logistics kind of takes place, and we would go out and do an assessment on each of those sites. When it, as Ash will discuss, when it comes to actually then applying for a grant, depending on what's actually selected, the grant is basically for the company rather than per site itself. But there could be multiple assessments actually taking place for the company. So once the assessments have taken place, as I should have showed some details on earlier on, you'll get a recommendation report. That'll give you detailed sets of costings. The section I showed you was the summary kind of component within it, but each recommendation itself has its own detailed set of requirements within that. And we'll kind of look at things like what actually is potentially involved, what sort of timeframes, creating small kind of action plans to look at how those can be implemented. In addition, we'll also do an overview of the overall building and site itself, as well as the individual recommendations kind of going on. So once you've had the assessment report and you can you've looked through that, then made some decisions on what it is that you'd like to kind of do and move forward with, then you can then go ahead and kind of apply for a grant. You need the assessment report to enable the grant application process to start, but that's effectively, once that's done, that becomes your handover for the grant application process. Okay. As I sort of said throughout this, there's a wide variety of things that can basically be supported. Lighting, things to do with the building, could be to do with ventilation, solar panels, could be, depending on what the building's contents are, refrigeration, could quite significant number of interventions. As an example, we did some work with an engineering company, substantial kind of manufacture, making stuff out of wood. Their initial assumption was that upgrading their machinery would be the area where they'd make the most significant amount of savings. Actually, once we'd gone in and done the assessment, it turned out that it was far more effective to look at their extraction and ventilation fans, because if you're making things in wood, there's an awful lot of sawdust and stuff kind of flying around within the air. Those have been in for quite a while. They weren't anywhere near as efficient. Over the years, they kind of become gummed up, etc. So basically replacing their 4 main extraction fans ended up saving them just a little over 40% on their energy consumption. They got over 70,000 in grants in order to help kind of with the installation costs of that. So I'm saying that just to kind of illustrate that there can be a wide variety of different interventions that can be installed, and it's not always as obvious as you may think in terms of what's the best way to achieve those energy efficiency measures. Okay. We've to date within the program, I think we've sort of from its inception, we've supported over 1,800 small businesses across the West Midlands. So that means each one of those has had their own individual energy assessment report. The program's been going since October 2023 and is going to finish in March 2026, because there's a finite time for the actual pilot program itself. As I said, the reason we're doing all of this is to help government understand how it is that you guys running small businesses actually kind of consume your energy, and then at some point in the future they'll use that to inform and change policy on how they can kind of support small businesses moving forward. But there's been a wide variety of different businesses that are supported. Many of them have kind of claimed the full amount of grant that's available. So we're talking about kind of manufacturing in this case, but we've supported care homes, pubs, retails, accountants, sports halls, you name it, somewhere on the lines we've done it. So yeah, the program's been going for a while. So if you're interested, you're basically getting involved in something that's tried and tested, to say the least. So, yeah, to say there's been a substantial number of businesses across all sorts of areas that have been supported. Right, I'll sort of stop talking from here and stop sort of sharing my screen. If you've got any questions you want to ask, then more than happy to kind of take those. The key bit from your point of view is basically sort of get started in terms of registering for the program and then getting going, really. Okay. Is there any questions at all? If not, then I'll hand over to Ash to discuss.
I think Gary Hawkins has got his hand up. Martin, sorry.
Yeah, so apologies. I forgot to say, when I'm looking at the screen, I can't see if anyone's got their hand up. So my apologies.
Okay.
That's all. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Just one question on the qualifying criteria on location, which must be in the West Midlands area, which we are as this business. We've got 4 sites within the UK, but my question is, the head office, the registered office, is in Somerset. Does that make a difference to us being in Walsall, West Midlands?
No. We'll come out and do an assessment on the sites that are based within the West Midlands. Clearly, that's where you're kind of operating from.
Yeah.
We can't come out to Somerset. That's just because of the defined geography for the pilot program.
Yeah.
But the properties that are in, and if you've got a couple of different properties with in different sites, then we can run an assessment for each one of those.
Yeah.
They just need to be in the West Midlands, Gary. Once that's there, that's great.
Thank you.
No
okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? No. Okay. Well, on that basis, I'll hand over to Ash, and he can talk about the interesting bit, how you get your hands on the money.
Right. Good morning, everyone. Basically, Martin's covered a fair bit of what I'm going to say, but I'll reiterate it. essentially, I'm going to talk about hopefully a bit more of a bit of an interesting bit, which is money. If there are any questions, well, obviously we'll look at the chat towards the end of my presentation and take any questions from there. But like Gary, if there are any questions during the presentation, please put your hand up and I'll be more than happy to actually answer any questions. Right, okay. Basically, hopefully you can see my screen.
Yeah,
Martin, is that off? Right, okay. Right, so my name is Ashman. I work for Birmingham City Council's Business Development and Innovation team. As a team, we've been around for about 25 years, supporting businesses generally with funding around growth. The last couple of years have been of a slightly wider interest for the government around sustainability, and we've run a couple of programs last year, a net zero program and the business energy efficiency grant program, which was the initial phase of the BEAS program, which we are going to talk about today. So let me just get a start on this. Is right. What my aim of my presentation today is actually just to share the information about the grant program with you. Generally, the program I'm going to talk about is Business Energy and Advice Scheme, shortly known as BEAS. This program is aimed at supporting SMEs. You've had the definition of SMEs before. Companies that employ less than 250 people and have a turnover of less than 50 million and a balance sheet of 43 million euros. That is, that converted into pounds essentially means around 43 million pounds for the turnover and about 38 million pounds for the balance sheet. This particular program actually supports existing businesses, and the definition of that basically is companies that have been running for at least 12 months. Why SMEs? Simply 99% of all businesses registered in UK are actually SMEs. That in number, that basically means about 5.6 million businesses across UK. The combined turnover of SMEs is about 2.2 trillion pounds, which equates to about 52% of all private sector turnover. SMEs account for 16.4 million people that they employ. Majority of them are in manufacturing and service industry. All right, sorry, let me just see if I can operate this properly. Right, so as I said, a lot has been talked about in terms of the program, but before I come into the eligibility more in detail, I just want to set out something else. There was a report carried out by West Midlands Industrial Energy Task Force a couple of years ago, and there are some very interesting figures from that I'd like to share with you. Basically, what it stated was that a couple of years ago, when this report came out, the businesses in West Midlands paid something in the region of 4.4 billion pounds in energy costs. The current rise in energy costs equated to about 2% in reduction of the regional output. 14% of businesses are facing energy costs exceeding 20% of their turnover. 30% are locked into fixed term tariffs that are more than 3 times their pre-crisis rate. And among the most affected businesses are manufacturing and hospitality. Between the two, they employ over 500,000 people. So you can see the scale of problem here, and the aim that we have for this particular program is to try and actually meet or at least reduce some of those costs for you as a business. So coming back to the eligibility side of things, Martin's kind of set this out in brief terms again, just to reiterate. We're looking at businesses that would have minimum use of about 25,000 kilowatt of energy over the 12 months or 12-month period, equating to about £6,800 in financial terms. They need to be a commercial entity, a profit-seeking enterprise, such as a partnership limited company or a CIC company. It's worth noting that the sole traders are not eligible for this particular program. They need to be operating from a registered commercial address and not a residential property. Again, a critical bit. Anyone working from home, unfortunately, won't qualify for this. There have been questions about multi-use properties, for instance, shops with residential property element within it. In those sort of situations, we need to see a clear distinction between where the energy reduction that we are supporting is going to, and that has to be separate to the commercial entity itself and not the residential element of it. The business needs to be responsible for paying for its own bills over the last 12 months that we're looking to observe. And they need to be officially registered and active for at least 12 months, as I said, so ongoing business. And the energy assessment that's carried out by Martin needs to demonstrate at least a 2-year payback period for the recommendation for it to qualify for this particular program. So diving into what is covered, these are some examples, but obviously there is a lot more when you go onto the website, so you'll actually see a lot more detail of what we can offer. And if you're in doubt, please get in touch and we'll be able to assess what needs you have. Aston will go through all of that. They'll give you recommendations generally, or in fact, all our partners, they'll give you recommendations that should qualify for the grant program. Those that don't will be clearly set out in a manner that will tell you, for instance, you won't have a payback period associated with that, etc., etc. So the sort of things that are covered: solar panels have a ceiling of £50,000. Although this is one of the most popular demands that we have under this particular program, but the government in its wisdom has actually set out a limit of £50,000. Now, the distinction here is that if there is any associated cost, such as storage, or one of the things that came up quite recently was a structure element of it, i.e. the roof needed restructuring in order to accommodate the solar panels. Those will come out from the other half of the 50%. So 50% reduction applies to solar panel installation only. You can put other elements associated with solar, like I said, storage and other things, through the wider limit that we have of £100,000 on the grant offer. So that's solar panels. It also covers things like ventilation systems, heating upgrades, refrigeration, insulation, recycling, water management, and there's a much larger list. Now, we talked about the energy audit. That's the key to it. That will determine what part of this you actually apply for. Again, Martin's actually covered the geography. So there are 7 local authority areas within the CA West Midlands Combined Authority area. That's Birmingham, Solihull, Wolverhampton, Coventry, Dudley, Sandwell, Walsall. Coventry do have their own direct management. I think we've got somebody here basically just to mention literally about Coventry having their own energy assessment, but they also manage their own application process as well. It will come to us if the application is for over £30,000 through a central approval mechanism that we have in place. But nonetheless, we do work very closely with Coventry in this respect. We've recently just added Stafford County Council, and we're working with them to get a funding agreement in place to accommodate businesses within the county council area will be able to apply for this particular program. Just to mention that in addition to what we manage as under the Birmingham City Council banner, the program is also available in Warwick and Worcester and the Marshes as well. So, but those are managed directly by themselves. Any business that you know of or residing in those areas should approach the local authority directly. Just approaching the end of my presentation, basically, just want to talk about the application process itself. What basically happens is that there are various stages that you go through. You start with the energy audit, as it's been mentioned, which will determine what you apply for. Once you've had an audit and we receive that copy of that audit, we will issue an application pack, which will come directly to you as a business, which you complete and return to us. It goes through various appraisal stages before it's subject to a decision through our governing body. We have an independent investment panel that actually looks at applications and gives us a decision on those. And the processes within that are that we carry out a pre-appraisal check. If there is anything that's lacking in your application, somebody will get in touch. We urge you to respond to that request as quickly as possible. That's where most of the delay comes into, where we have delays in responding to the required information, which basically means the application cannot progress to the next stage, which is a formal appraisal and to a decision process. So again, in terms of actually project appraisal, your application will be assessed against the set criteria for the program, and a decision is then sought from, as I said, the investment panel from there on. It says it takes up to 2 months. A lot of it depends on how quickly you respond to the request. We'll do our best to try and accommodate applications or progress applications in around 6 weeks where possible. Just some hints and tips in terms of actually completing your application form. We do urge you, once you get an application pack, first of all, to consult with local authority partners. That's our team if there are any clarifications that you need. Our partners such as Growth Hub, again, have extensive knowledge and expertise who can support you in completing their website. The application form, their website and contact details will be made available a little bit later. The other part of this, which we urge you to do, is actually go through the guidance notes, because they'll set out a kind of method of responding to all the key questions. The more detailed responses that we get, or more relevant responses that we get, easier it is for us to move the application along that particular process. And the final bit on this page is a checklist. We have a checklist in the final section. It asks you to tick various bits of information that we require. Please make sure that that is fully checked and you enclose all the information that is required. If there is anything missing, get in touch with us and we will obviously support you in terms of what can be done, and if there are any alternatives that are available. Just some general hints and tips generally around any files that you send to us and the format that they need to be saved in. And the final bit, which is that if you have not heard from us within 3 working days of submitting an application, you need to get in touch with us. We've had people who've submitted documents that actually far exceed the capacity that we have to receive through an email. And in some cases, months later, they come back and basically want to know where their application is. We can't really respond to something that we haven't received. So within 3 working days, if you've not received a response, please get in touch and we'll find an alternative way for you to get the information across to us. So very important. Once you've had a confirmation from us, that's when the timescale starts. And then, as I said, somebody will get in touch if they need any more information. Otherwise, assume that your application is progressing through the system. Some key links here. We've got the program website. Basically, that will set out the wider information about the program, which is much more detailed than just the brief presentation that I've given today. We are starting to issue an online application form. So up to now, we've had a Word document that goes out, which you complete, sign and send in. But we are moving to online application. So you still get your guidance documents in an email, but you'll be given a link to an application form, which you complete and return to us. To register for an energy audit, I've got a link here. Hopefully, if the presentations are being circulated, this will take you to it. Otherwise, Ashmi just kindly put the link in the chat. Please make a start on that. It takes literally about 5 to 10 minutes for you to complete that, and it kickstarts the process. The quicker you do that, the quicker people will come out to you and get the energy audit process started. Various inquiries and application form requests, website, email addresses. That's the central email address that we have. And the last thing I'd say to you is that this is probably one of the last chances that we've got to get hold of this sort of money from the government around sustainability. There will be other programs. We don't know what the criteria is, but as Martin said, this particular program runs out in 2026. We've been told by the government that the program won't extend beyond that. There's substantial sums of money that the government has made available. We would like that money to be invested in our regional businesses rather than for it to be returned to government. So we urge yourselves or any other businesses that you associate within your supply chain or your upward chain, for those businesses that qualify for it, to get on the ladder, get your energy assessment done, and hopefully that will identify key areas within your business where you can save substantial sums of money by implementing some of the solutions that are recommended, and you now have the opportunity to access up to £100,000 worth of money to implement those measures to improve your business. And like I said in the case study, money that you can reinvest in your business and grow. I'll stop my presentation here. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to respond to those straight away. Okay, Martin, in that case, I'll hand back over to you.
Sorry,
go ahead, Kevin.
Please. Should you be successful in obtaining a grant and your application being successful, and you go through your kind of list of recommendations and you pick up on one or two of them, am I right in saying you have to have 3 quotes to have that work completed, 3 costings?
Yeah.
And if that is the case, which I think it is, do you actually supply a kind of a list of approved contractors that you could potentially use?
No, we don't supply that. This is purely an independent application, which the applicant themselves would make those choices where they get that from. This day and age, there is so much available on the website, our websites, etc. If you carry out a search, say for instance, solar panels, again, which is one of the most common ones, there are tons of companies that actually install those. So we don't dictate who you go to and who you select, as long as you provided a reasonable explanation for the selection of the person that you or the company that you've selected. May well be merit or previous experience that you had with them. So again, we would urge you, again, if you've got issues, we talked about the Growth Hub being one of the supporting agents who might be able to identify those for you. Websites are another key element to it. What we do require is that there is a procurement set of guiding notes that will actually come with an application. We need 3 quotes up to £25,000 worth of value of a project. Anything beyond that, we will need a kind of tendering process to be completed. The process being pretty much the same, but you just need to put out a tender and invite minimum of kind of 3 quotes. There are certain areas where 3 quotes cannot be obtained. For instance, if you've got specialized equipment that can only be operated or supplied by either a single or 2 suppliers, in those cases, all we need is a single tender justification from yourselves, and we'll accept that as well.
Okay, yeah, great, thanks for that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Martin, it's back to you.
Thank you, Ash. That's excellent. Just to reiterate, in case it's not entirely clear, so the program finishes at the end of March 2026. With the overall process, you obviously apply for the grant. Once that's successful, the amount of money that's available to you is kind of confirmed. It's up to a maximum of £100,000 and or 50% of the cost of the recommendations. There's obviously a separate cap that's been discussed just for solar panels, but so as an example, if I'm just using these as example numbers. So if the recommendations came to 150,000, then you could apply for up to 75,000. If the recommendations, which is 50% of it, if the recommendations came to 300,000, then you could apply for up to 100,000, which in this case would be a third, but it's that would be the maximum cap in terms of the amount of money that would be available. the money is basically match funding. So once you've had everything implemented, and you've got the invoices, etc., demonstrate that the activities all taken place, then you basically kind of claim the grant within that. So everything needs to be completed before the end of March, so that the funds can be claimed. So as Ash said, the actual process can take a little bit of time. It takes obviously a while to get sort of some quotes for different things to make sure that's happening, and then you obviously need to have the time to sit and consider what are make the most sense as an investment, because that's what this is. It's ultimately an investment in the business, of what of the recommendations would be most suitable. It may be all of them, it may be just a couple of them, it may be one of them. There's no kind of limit on it from that point of view. But I've got nothing to sort of sell here, but my strong recommendation would be to apply and get the process going as quickly as possible, because to kind of get through and get it all done and then kind of claimed, time has a horrible habit of kind of running away with things. So that would be my strong recommendation, is to get the process going as quickly as possible to make sure you can maximize the benefit from it. Okay. Right, we've got about like a minute left or something. So if there's no other further questions, we'll kind of wrap up there. We've got sort of contact details there, so if there's anything